Mabandla kaMjuba nakandaba, Sizwe sikaMthaniya, Commander-in-Chief Julius Malema, all the officials, commissars, selfless activists of the EFF, and all the progressive forces who stood up and spoke out when President Malema was once again under attack by Western imperialists who are provoked by our resolve to attain economic freedom in our lifetime. Revolutionary greetings. President Ramaphosa, we stand here today to respond to your State of the Nation address that didn't address the state of our nation. We respond to you on behalf of the women who have been waiting for parental justice in our maintenance courts for many years and received no justice because they didn't have enough in their pockets to bribe their way to justice. We respond to you on behalf of thousands and thousands of young men and women who recently completed their matric but are faced with the tormenting reality that their lives, like those before them, will amount to nothingness because their bachelor's degrees passes did not guarantee them a table in university. We respond on behalf of Kanyisile, who is a victim of bullying at Sutherland High School because she is a black girl in South Africa. She and many young black women are forced to learn that under your leadership, they are second-class citizens. Your presidency does nothing for us, Mr. President. It doesn't protect us, nor does it give us justice. Receive this response on behalf of 17-year-old Amahle, diagnosed at Charlotte Maxeke Johannesburg Academic Hospital in 2017 to being on the spectrum with special needs and has still not received her right to specialized vocational education to date. Her and thousands other children with disabilities and special needs are cursed with having you as the government of the day, as what is standing between them and their right to education is a government that has abandoned the responsibility of defending the most vulnerable in our society. Mam Rebecca Molefe, who has a common reality to that of my great-grandmother, Unomngwalisa Ngokazi. These black women and majority of black people in this country had their land stripped away from them by white supremacists. Mam Molefe's case is even more catastrophic, as her land was stolen 20 years into democracy after you became president. Petrol attendants, widows and orphans of Marikana, millions of unemployed youth who are bed-rotting and giving in to depression, grandmothers who are abused by their nyaupe and crystal-addicted grandsons and daughters, teachers who are threatened daily at their places of work by children who are victims of dysfunctional communities, business people who have to pay thugs protection fees or risk being killed, farm workers in Purifir in the Eastern Cape who are paid a carton of milk and a box of cigarettes after a week's worth of labor, the colored Danis in the Cape Flats who pray at night while we sleep, hoping to end the violence with spiritual intervention and waiting for Godot because the government has failed to protect them, and the black people in this country who are dispossessed of their land. As much as you say that you will not be bullied, and we agree with you that you must not be bullied, the reality is that, Mr. President, you are being bullied. If you were not being bullied, you would have supported the amendment of Section 25 of our Constitution that was to see the justified expropriation of land without compensation, not the watered-down Expropriation Act that uses the language of revolution but yet far away from true justice. The state, including Parliament, the executive and the judiciary, carry the obligation to redress imbalances of the past through the enactment of laws that will achieve redress and equitably redistribute all resources. If you were not being bullied, the South African government would pass legislation that all the food bought by government for public facilities should be sourced from small-scale farmers and food producers. This in itself will create sustainable economic activity and inspire many unemployed young people in the country to go into food production because there will be income and financial benefits to boost other economic activities out of it. We would increase state capacity and stop rendering the development of this nation to the greed of tenderpreneurs. We will always need cleaners, Mr. President, truck drivers, security guards, surveyors, healthcare workers and engineers. There is no tangible reason to subject our nation to the mercy of the private sector through tenders for basic functions of the state. Build the capacity of the state you are in charge of. Do the actual work. Don't just talk about industrialization. Do it. We export almost everything in this country, and your government oversees the compromise of industries we used to dominate. What is the reason that we export ivaslap yogeza when we were once a nation that boasted dominance in the textile industry? It is because you are bullied. Initiate the establishment of a state-owned mining company, housing construction company, a state roads company, a state cementing company, because we can no longer tolerate what the party of convicts is doing in Johannesburg with the money that is meant to build our roads. Introduce vocational education in earlier grades. Decolonize the education curriculum. We want you to be exhausted of creating matriculants who have zero skills to show after 12 years of being in the education system. This while children as young as 9 years old are being taught robotics in China. You have been president for 7 years now. May this be the very last State of the Nation address where you hide the shame of your incompetency behind a vision board that never comes to fruition. You chose, Mr. President, you chose to lead with people who want to maintain the status quo because you are bullied. You chose to lead with those who write letters to America and tell on you like you are a little child that requires supervision because you are bullied. You chose the people who don't have a history of ever choosing your own people because you are bullied. And so long as that is the hill that you are willing to build your legacy on, ngeke nilibuse. Lo buso izinkonja nezezulu eziphaxeka ngodaga. The economic freedom fighters can claim to not being bullied because despite your collaboration with Pravin Gordhan, Jacob Zuma, and the establishment to silence the generation of President Julius Malema, we continue to rally behind the radical call for expropriation of land of South Africans without compensation for equal redistribution and use. Nationalization of mines, banks, and other strategic sectors of the economy without compensation. Building state government capacity, which will lead to the abolishment of tenders. Free quality education, healthcare, housing, and sanitation. Massive protected industrial development to create millions of sustainable jobs, including the introduction of minimum wages in order to close the wage gap between the rich and the poor. Close the apartheid wage gap and promote rapid career paths for Africans in the workplace. Massive development of the African economy and advocating for a move from reconciliation to justice in the entire continent. Open, accountable, and corrupt-free government and society without fear of victimization by the State Defense Force, police, and other agencies. We continue to call for economic freedom in our lifetime. Economic freedom in our lifetime. Economic freedom in our lifetime. Economic freedom in our lifetime.
The progressive is in Tata.